Hey, aloha everybody. I'm Harry Mandibles, and thank you again for checking out my Pumpkin Pandemonium project. If you missed the previous video, this is a little kit bash project I put together to give something to do for people who just want to have some fun in ZBrush or to combat creative fatigue with. So be sure to like this video and give me a follow, as I'll be doing more videos on how to explore all the potential for creating kick-ass digital jack-o'-lanterns. So let's get started. Alrighty, so as you can see, I have the Pumpkin Pandemonium Project file open. There are two subtools that are available within the project when you open it up. There's the pumpkin meat and the inner boolean. The first subtool, the pumpkin meat, is going to be used to establish the overall shape of the gourd, and the second, the inner boolean, is primarily for helping to create a cavity or negative space of anything that you want to cut out to make your jack-o'-lantern with. So I'd like to take a moment though to talk about this. I'm going to turn on solo mode, the inner boolean. Yeah, it's a simple sphere, you know, not too much to it. But this thing is pretty essential. You're going to want to like keep this even after you complete your boolean, because it's quite handy. Um, it's nice to have if you plan on making this into a 3D print and you need to make everything watertight. You can use this to fill the gaps if there's anything there. So, you know, you could give it like fill behind eyes. And it's also really good for drawing out like IMM parts, like the eyes and the teeth or whatever it is you want to like add to it, you know, tongues, whatever. So, you know, this guy is your buddy. He's your friend. Don't lose him. And then we have the pumpkin meat. So turn the floor off here. As you can see, there's some detail here, but I tried to not put in too much. I just wanted to give you like a visual roadmap for, you know, how pumpkins grow. They do have like kind of poles to them, like where the vine comes out and then where they come off of the flower that gets pollinated. Kind of similar, you know, you can push these things in. And there's a little tiny bits of creasing. You're going to want to add more to it, and this shape right here is going to get mostly cut out of, because we're going to you know, as we go along, you'll kind of see like how I handle this and what I do to kind of get a neat effect. Because if you carve pumpkins, you know that there is like a rind on the outside. It's very thin, but it's very durable and hard. And if if you're doing the kind of digital, or not digital, but the sculpting relief to it, it's got a little bit of thickness to it. It's kind of nice to kind of work with. You know, you can get some like cool like shadows and things like just by cutting edges in and underneath, or you know, undercuts and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, you know, I'm sure most of you know what a pumpkin looks like, or in your mind's eye you can picture them, and it doesn't hurt to like do a quick Google search. So you know, you can see all the different variants in nature that these things have. I mean, they're tall, they're small, they're skinny, they're fat, they're warped, they're twisted, they're bent. They've got flat sides and any kind of combination of all of those things. And what's great is that we can mimic pretty much any of those shapes with the deformers and this. But before you do that, you're going to want to merge. As you can see, we're going to solo mode on. You're going to want to merge the pumpkin meat and the inner boolean, and they both have their own poly group, which is great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to merge these down, and then I'm going to duplicate this and just hide this one for now. So these are together. I'll click on this guy, or I'll shift control click to isolate this poly group, and then I'll shift control drag, and you'll see they're together. Now they're both back, and what you want to do is, actually we're going to turn off symmetry. You're going to want to, you can take any of these deformers. You know, I like to just start with this one. And this is great because you can add in a little more resolution. You don't have to do too much. In fact, I recommend that you don't. But if you control drag over these points right here, you can just select the ones in the middle, and you know, we're just going to make this guy a little taller, a little more bevel to the top there. You know, see that kind of really quickly, boom, it's a nice looking pumpkin, and that's a good shape. And so we're going to accept that, And then I think I'm gonna do it again, because you can kind of come in here now and start to bell it out a little bit, you know, give it kind of a little Hershey Kiss kind of thing going on here. I do like, that's one of my favorite shapes of pumpkins. It just looks kind of cool. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of like how you do this. And then once you have the shape you like, so I'm going to go ahead and accept this. You're going to control click on this guy and mask him, and control shift click again to bring everything back. And then you're going to want to go down to split and split unmasked points. So now we turn solo on. You'll see that the inner Boolean shape now kind of mimics what we did there. So you want to deform these two together, because it's going to pay off in the long run, you know, so that you can get a nice kind of even cavity that will mimic your pumpkin, you know, because when you cut into real pumpkins, they definitely it's kind of a uniform in a way. I mean, but there's, you know, you can control the depth and the thickness of everything now, which is really nice. So the next step that you want to do to get going here is create a folder. Doesn't, you know, name it if you want to. Like, I don't, like for this, just because I know I've done this enough that I don't really, I just fly through it. So I mean, if you feel like naming it, name it, but it doesn't matter. So turn solo mode off and select the inner Boolean piece, and we're going to set that to Boolean. And then we're going to turn off that, and you can, you know, for this I'm just going to do I'm going to pull up the IMM primitives, and I think I'll just take a cylinder here, and we'll just pull some of these out. Kind of, oops. If you turn on local symmetry, you get a better control over these shapes, you know. So we'll turn this guy back on. You can kind of see how they're poking out, and now we can turn on live Boolean, and you can see that, hey, we've got some like cuts in there. It starts to look like a real pumpkin, and that's pretty neat. So turn live Boolean back off, turn solo mode on again, come back down, and I'm just going to add in another cylinder. And but this time I'm going to deform this cylinder. I don't want that. I want the extender first. And we're going to just pull this out, accept, and we'll take flatten, and we'll drag this arrow down, just kind of give it a mouth. We're going to accept that. Now, if you switch to an you know, a worm's eye view, and you're looking up at this thing from below it, you'll see that this is straight across, and we want this to cut into this pumpkin. So it's real easy to do. Again, fire up the deformers. We're going to do the bend arc, and you'll see this green little triangle piece right here. Drag that and just pull it. Well, okay, this is good. Now you see how it's straight across. We're going to undo that, and we're going to turn on our polyframe here. So you'll see that there are no edge loops running through this. That's a real easy fix. Take your Z modeler brush and multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, and we'll just drag out a few. Good enough. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. And now we're going to go back into the bend arc, grab this guy, and see, there we go. Kind of hugs the hemisphere of the sphere that we pulled this thing out onto. I'm going to accept. We're going to tuck this thing in, and I'm just going to make sure that we've got enough. You know, you want this thing to go into the Boolean shape. And we'll turn off the polyframe. We'll turn off solo mode. You can see that. Now let's turn on turn live Boolean on. And you got just a little basic, you know, quick and dirty, basic jack-o'-lantern that you can mess around with. And so we're going to turn symmetry on and click the gearbox on this folder and do a boolean with dynamic subdiv. Let it run its course, and now we'll click on this guy, turn on the polyframes, and you'll see that those booleans are complete. One thing I should have done when I did that extender was make on the mouth shape was make that all one poly group, because you want all these edge loops running through the cut of the mouth to be uniform, but that's an easy fix. You can control shift click, then control shift drag to bring it back. That selected those middle parts. I'm going to do it again on the side pieces, and then control shift drag, bring them up, and just hit control W, boom, now it's all one poly group. So this geometry is kind of garbage. In fact, it's a lot of garbage. The next thing you want to do is go into Z remesher. I like to turn on keep groups, detect edges, turn off adapt, crank adaptive size down to 0, and turn on active symmetry. Well, if you want symmetry, if your face is symmetrical, then yes, turn symmetry on for this. If it's not, then don't do it. Otherwise, you're going to get wonky results. But hey, this is a symmetrical face, and this is totally fine. So let's run with it, and we'll see how this looks. I don't like to do half right away because I like to see like how the edge loops are going first, and that's actually quite good. I can live with that because there's different things that I like to do with the edge loops around the face cuts, and these actually came out fairly nice, where there's an actual loop that goes through. Well, there's some weird triangle-y stuff that's going on here. I wonder, let's just do a little polish by features. There we go. That should do that. That'll be fine. That's fine, because I'm going to end up dynameshing this portion of it anyway. So let's turn the poly groups off. I like to switch my colors out, and I'm going to make, you know what? Actually, no. Yeah. I'm just going to pick like a light kind of creamy yellow. Turn on MRGB, and we're going to fill this object. And then I'm going to duplicate it off and turn on the polyframe, and control shift click on the outer poly group, the one that's that basically defines the outside shape here. And then we're going to go to geometry. Where is that? Topology. We're going to modify topology and delete hidden. Sorry, sometimes I have hotkeys for these things, so to actually explain it, sometimes I gotta think my way through it. And so now, if I control shift drag, we just have this polyframe, and this is awesome. I like to give like a bit of a cutaway into the rind, so that it's not exactly going straight into the cut, like into the jack-o'-lantern cuts. So it kind of looks like you carved out around some of the rind off. So if you get your Z modeler brush and hover over the face on one of these edge loops, go to poly group, poly loop, and just click, and we'll do this, and then we will control shift click on these edge loops that we just isolated, and then we'll control shift drag to hide them, and then we will delete hidden. And now I'm going to switch colors, turn this guy on, but then I'm going to fill this with that lovely orange, and you'll see that we kind of have, it's a little winged out here. That's fine. You can go over the point with your Z modeler brush, grab slide, and just kind of, whoops, I need more RAM. It's fine. It's a little bit hidden, but that's okay, because we're going to extract this out here in a second. Okay. Turn on the polyframe again. We're going to grab the Z modeler brush, extrude. I'm going to hide this one just so I can come in here and see what's getting pulled up. I like to, with extrude, you want to grab, polygroup all. Just pull out You don't need a whole lot, about like that much. It's pretty good. And then, oops, turn that off, turn this guy back on. And, you know, you kind of just fudge these around. Actually, that's kind of neat. I'm going to keep that. All right. So yeah, there's your basic pumpkin shape. And then like with that rind out, you know, give it some divisions. Grab your damn standard brush, and then just I don't know. I turn symmetry off when I do this part, but I can still kind of see where that middle crease was, and just kind of come down. It's a little too much. Yeah, you can start to come down and just add some creasing that happens here. I'm not going to get too detailed with this because I just want to show you how to get going with just a basic shape. But yeah, we'll leave that on. I'm going to turn this. I'm going to give it some dynamic subdivision, apply it, delete the lower, and then I'm going to go to Dynamesh, turn that on, and I'll just grab my trim dynamic and just kind of smush this down and around. But I mean, you know, you want to do you can do a lot of good sculpting on this yellow part once you're happy with things. But here, we'll do a quick little render so you can kind of see like how things start to look once you have this in play. But yeah, this is fun. Like the deformers are really, really, really fun to mess around with on the pumpkin shape, because you can, you know, stretch this thing out and to get all different kinds of shapes. And I'm gonna once we get the render of this, I will pull up that one that we saved and mess around again, because I want to show you a couple other things that I like to do, especially with the poles, because they do kind of stick out a bit, and I can show you a way to like push those down in, you know, because sometimes, you know, pumpkins, like when they develop, you know, they kind of do a little that noise. Like that's exactly what happens where the stem is. So it does kind of like get a little concave where the stem starts to peek out at. Yeah, that, and you know, you can get some twists in there. The bend curve is really fun too, because you can also kind of like give it you can give it a lot of personality with that too, and you can get some nice twists, which if you want to do some like asymmetrical stuff, which I highly recommend that you do, like especially on the base pumpkin shape, because you know, the symmetry is not found in pumpkins. And most of the ones that I've done so far have been symmetrical, just because I've been playing around with the different shapes and just exploring like how the booleans look, and you know, whether I'm cutting in all the way for like eyes and a mouth and a nose, or just for the eye area, or just for the mouth area, and then carving stuff in for the other shapes. So I'm going to start doing some more like wild explorations too. I've got a lot of ideas for these things. Like it's, you know, I do really love carving pumpkins, like actual pumpkins. Not very good, but I have a lot of fun. So anyway, here you go. You can kind of see how like the detail starts to read if you just give, you know, a little bit of creasing, like with the damn standard, like through there. And you know, you can do even more. And I have, you know, VDM brushes that you can pull in here as well, and I'll show you those in another video. But for now, I just want to explore the pumpkin base mesh, and like just how to get going real quick for just a simple shape. But I mean, you can take this idea and run with it and start getting like really complicated. I mean, if you already know ZBrush, then I'm probably boring the shit out of you, and you know, no big deal. You do what you want to do. Like this is for anybody to like fire up with. I mean, it's a great way to help fight off creative fatigue. Like if you get that slump, you know, like I myself run into that every now and then, but this is nice because you don't have to think about what you're going to do. You know what a jack-o'-lantern is. You can just kind of dive into it and have fun with it. You can kind of kill your inner critic a lot too, because you have freedom to mess this up however you want and find whatever solution that, you know, that looks cool. You know, you don't have to be, you don't have to beat yourself up while you do this. So, okay, I've got another one here. Let's get the deformer up. Let me show you how I get rid of these poles, or how I kind of like push them in. So the first thing I do, not that deformer, we're just going to take the regular. I will, oops, okay. So you want to get this point isolated. And if you just control drag over points, you hide them. And if you control alt drag, you know, you can bring up the point. You can bring a point back if you want. This is if you don't know how to use these things. So again, if you know what you're doing, don't mind me. So first I start to just kind of like pull that in a little bit, and we're going to accept, and then we're going to grab the deformer again, hide these guys, and then I'm going to hide the one in the middle here, and then just start to pull. Oops, did this guy get hidden? Okay. Sometimes you got to just kind of finagle a little bit. So that is starting to work. Oops. All right. A little tricky to get that sometimes, but you know, you can kind of pull that one in. Accept. Sometimes you can get it done in like 2 deformer tries like that. Sometimes, you know, you can go in again and just grab this point and sink her down a little bit. And grab these guys. And pull those up. So that's, I mean, you kind of get the idea. You just got to keep working it. You know, don't feel like you have to do it all in like one go with the deformer. I mean, definitely explore like what's going on here, and then hit accept. And I'm just gonna really go with this one. We're gonna mess this guy up. Pull this up. Hide these. Oops. Hide you. Grab these. All right, so if you go to a side view, and we're going to accept this, and then you grab your bend curve, it should already come out with the pole running, you know, north to south on this guy right here. And if you don't know how to use this, you can, there are 2, well, it starts out with 2 dots, so you can grab these guys, and it's best to have it from like a locked side view. And then you can kind of like, you know, you can stretch and pull these things when there's just 2. That'll give you a better, like, longer pumpkin if you want. But I like to add in at least, I don't really like to go too much resolution on the curve. Typically 3 points is about all I need. I try to keep this point static as best I can and just manipulate the top so that everything kind of stays flat, and just kind of give it a little bit of a bend. I mean, if you need to like do some more here, I would just get a point in between the bottom just to kind of buffer that a little bit so that you can kind of, you know, this is good too. Like, you know, if you go to a pumpkin patch this year, like keep your eye out for the ones that have like a bend in them like that. Because that does happen. I mean, depending on like how they grow on the ground, I mean, they'll get like flat spots, or they'll get little, you know, bends like this. And then this is kind of fun too. But now we're going to drop that resolution down a bit. Just take it back down to 2 dots actually. And it's hard to see because we've got an orange fill. I wonder, okay, yeah, let's grab the blue. There you go. Now you can kind of see when you hover over this point, or these little modifiers right here. This one says twist. Grab this guy and just give him a little swirl. There you go. That might be a little too much because then the creasing starts to get a little warped, but we'll just add in another point. And you know, I think because I bent it, we're getting some like kind of like wonky stuff. So you know what? Let's just back it up. We'll drop the resolution back down to 2 points. We're going to do the twist first. Oops. There you go. I wouldn't go too drastic with it because it's not like they're like a tornado like that. They do just kind of have like a little bit of a twist on some of them. Like some do kind of like run almost like straight up and down, but there is a little like bend to them. But here we go. That's good. I'm just going to accept that. And we're going to grab the bend curve again, add the resolution back in, pull this guy up. Oops. All right. Let's put another point there. And just kind of, maybe I want them coming forward a little bit. So there is where is it? This modifier right here, it will smooth out between points, or it should, but it's not. Could just be because there's too much resolution. Let's see. Yeah, because you don't want that kind of crease that looks kind of wonky, but so let's back that up. Anyway, this is kind of good right here. I'm gonna drop this down. Like they do lean back, but there's another modifier right here, which is scale, so you can kind of taper things out a little bit too, because they do, there are some that do get kind of like skinnier as they get to the top where the stem is, or usually that's the case, because it'll get fatter where it's blooming off of the flower that got pollinated. But here, this is cool. And then you can kind of go to the front side view and give it a little, let's add in the points. Let's give it a little lean, a little S, a bit of a curve. Yeah, there we go. We'll accept that. We'll switch this back. And then we will again do our isolation of polygroups. Oops. Mask this guy. We'll bring back the other by Control-Shift clicking on the canvas. And we'll do another split unmask parts. Go to solo mode, and you'll see that this guy is now warped the same way that this one is too. And this is fun too, because you can now, you've got that like funky pumpkin shape, grab the primitives and pull. You can even turn symmetry back on and still get these things placed right. Pop these out. You know what? Just for fun, let's get in there with the extender a little bit. All right, what I did was I just control clicked on the canvas to switch the mask, and I'll hit Control W because now that will make those one uniform poly group. Totally fine. Come in with the Z modeler, just a little extra resolution. I'm going to turn off the creasing. All right, and now let's add in a mouth. Flatten this out at the bottom. Pull this guy up some. I'm gonna kind of angle it up and in. And I think I will skew him a bit. I think I'm also going to taper. Yeah, that'll work for now. We'll set these to be negatives. Grab this top guy, make a new folder, pull this one in and reorder, turn off solo mode, turn off the polyframe. There you go. See? Quick way to get in there and start getting some face cuts. And you get some funky gourd shapes here. So I'm going to do, I think, one more just to kind of get a fat one. See how that looks. Turn this off for now. Grab you, duplicate, turn on the deformer. To make fat ones, I like to make sure I at least have like 2 lines of resolution running through the deformer. We're going to hide the, whoops. Hide the top and the bottom rows, and then whoops, again, it's just counterintuitive. I don't know why. I always want to just control drag to bring up the ones that I want, but it's control alt to give you the points that you need. So you can just kind of pull these out and kind of stretch them. Oops. Pull, stretch. Yeah, get like a little fat boy right there. Accept, and maybe I'll deform it one more time. Pull these guys up a little bit. Oops. And bring this down. That's a cool looking pumpkin. This would be cool with a nice big wide mouth and some tight little tiny eyes right there. But yeah, so there you go. That's kind of the gist of like how to get working with the base mesh itself to get started. I mean, you know, go nuts with this. Find all different kinds of ways to do it. I mean, really get in there with these deformers and mess with the shape, and you'll find something cool. I promise. It's very, very, very easy to do. Very satisfying. It's, you know, it's peaceful. You know, you don't have to worry about mistakes. I mean, you know, if you always have, you know, just don't save over this project file. If you do, just, you know, reopen the zip, or at the very least duplicate the 2 shapes and just have those set aside and mess up the ones that you want. That way, you know, nothing gets lost, and you can start over from scratch if you think you messed up. Not a big deal. You can run the extender on this too, by the way, if you want. If you want to just kind of give it a little bit. It does look weird. Let me turn that off. So this guy, if you don't use, you know, if you're not used to the deformers or not, comes in and it adds a creasing into the new like poly loop that gets made around the center. So you can just pull this down and it turns that off. I'll show you what I mean. So this is on, and as you pull it, you'll see that where these 2 poly groups meet, you got a crease there, and that's why it kind of looks like funky. You get that line. I just turn this off. It's not as noticeable, but it's still there. I don't really like to do that to this, but you can, and you can always just kind of smooth it out later. Let's run this offset. What does this do? Oh, yeah, nothing really fancy there too. The other cool thing, if you wanted to make like kind of, you know, simulate how these things have been, let's do that right now. So I'm going to undo that crease, and I'm going to accept this. So I mean, you know, you can stretch this out with just the gizmo itself too. So we're going to do this. I'm going to add a cube, and we're going to initialize it, make it a cube. Turn on solo mode. Just going to squish this guy down. Now, I'm not the greatest with simulation, with running the simulations. I messed with it, but I'm not as experienced as I'd like. But here we go. We'll take this guy. We'll kind of rotate him a little bit. Okay, and I'm just gonna pop open the side tab here, and we're gonna drag our dynamics over. Floor collision is on. Gravity strength, I'm gonna just turn that down a little bit. Vision volume, all right. And if I remember correctly, it is the cloth move. Is that correct? No. Sorry, bear with me here. I'm pretty sure it was the cloth move. You know what? Let's just run the simulation. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of fun too. You know, you can get a little like flattened edge there. I'm sure, I mean, if you're better with dynamics than I am, like I don't really mess with it all that much too, but it's something I've been wanting to explore with this. And I'm in another video, once I get a little better at it, I'm going to try to play around with this so that you can get those sort of flattened off sides where like it's been, you know, it's just grown on where it grows into the dirt and just kind of gets a little planer, you know, from where it's been. Let's turn this guy off. But yeah, we'll probably go in here. Let's turn this. Yep, you'll see even the deformers here. I'm gonna mask that. Switch the mask. Split these guys off. And we'll just do another folder real quick. Turn live boolean off for now. Solo mode it. You know what? There we go. I just rotated things into a face forward position. Turn solo on. Off. Oops. Let's undo that. Go, uncheck transpose all. There we go. Now everything's facing the right way. Turn solo mode back on. Grab the primitives here. You know what? Give this guy some square eyeballs. Symmetrical. solo mode is on, my bad. There we go. And again, so yeah, you know, you can, like I said, there's lots of different ways you can get around to doing this. Oh, you'll see that's kind of not so good right there. But we can just take all of this, recenter the gizmo. Oops. And you can just kind of shrink it or move it up so that it's not coming through and giving you that unwanted hole there. All right. So let's just, you know what? I'm gonna do this real quick. We're gonna boolean this guy together. All right. Now we have our new shape. So what I'm gonna do is take this guy, duplicate it, pull him out of that folder, turn on solo mode. I just want this piece, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna delete hidden, polyframe, go back into solo mode. And with this guy here, I'm just gonna give him a black fill here. So this is what I mean by keeping this guy around. You can, if you hold down Control and grab the square in the middle here, it will inflate. Oop, I'm on the wrong one. You want to have this centered. Hit Control and drag and kind of inflate this guy into it a little bit, and that'll close up, make sure there's no open gaps, because it should be intersecting with what it cut out. But you know, if we run a little, hold on one second, let's turn on to perspective just so you can kind of see, turn the floor on. And you'll see, like, I mean, you know, if you want to have this like fill in there, like, so these kind of cartoony, so that it's not like hollow, it's nice to keep that in there, because then you can draw out your eyes and your teeth and whatever you want, and give you a nice little surface to work with, and like fill it in. And once you like render it too, you know, it looks cool. I do this on some of these, just depends. I mean, it's all up to you. So let's see how this guy looks. It'll get there. Trying to think what else I can tell you. You know, you don't just have to use the primitive shapes to pull these things out as well. In the next video, I'm going to show you different ways to make face cuts and like how you can adjust that too. I mean, this is like what I'm showing you here now is if you wanted to have like basically the whole hollowed out cavity, like a real like jack-o'-lantern, you know. It's kind of, it's neat. It makes it look like, you know, like something that's been carved. And if you want to like 3D print it, you could, you know, size this thing and put like a little tea tree or one of those tea candles in there. I recommend getting the electronic ones because you probably don't want to run like a flame under whatever product you use to print with, because I'm sure that's not going to smell very nice or be good on the lungs. So please don't do that. Grab an electric light. So yeah, you know, gives it that like fill. Plugged it up, looks good. So there you have it. Stay tuned. The next video, I'm going to show you the brushes and everything, some of the detail brushes, and probably show you how to do some of the other face cuts and get in here and like sculpt it and mess around. Anyway, thanks again for checking this out, and I'm Harry Mandibles. You can find me at gammabombstudio.com. Follow all of my social media links on there. Follow me and keep an eye out, because this is going to be an ever-growing product that I will keep expanding to give you more tools and toys to play around with. So keep an eye out, and happy sculpting.